Scarcity is fear. Anytime you have a negative thought or negative energy like that, it lowers your vibration, it lowers your frequency, and it's going to continue to pull things down. So you really have to shift your mind to always like think abundantly, like there is no lack. Welcome to the Kingspiration podcast. This is the place where you'll learn how to get unstuck and gain momentum in your life and business. Each week, we tackle the real aspects of entrepreneurship, personal development, relationships, and fitness. I'm your co-host, Ethan King, from Atlanta, Georgia, USA, entrepreneur, TEDx speaker, and best-selling author of Wealth Beyond Money.
And I'm your co-host, Justin King, no relation to Ethan, from Cape Town, South Africa, entrepreneur, speaker, and business growth strategist. Our journey crosses continents and cultures, sharing wisdom and experiences to propel you forward. Welcome to Kingspiration. Let's start the conversation.
Today we have a comment from a listener, and this was a comment that was left on episode 47. Yeah. But in episode 47, we spoke about how to have everything you really want in life. And that was massive, and we went quite deep on that. And David Allen 4026 left the comment, I have a version of what I really wanted when I was younger. Now that I've got it, I find myself wondering, is the business of holding onto what I got blinding me to other things that I want? Because now I'm not sure what I really want. I'm just working on keeping what I have. It's a great comment, and it really got me thinking when I read it for the first time. And hearing it, what are your thoughts immediately on that?
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely relate to that. That's like, especially the older we get, and when you do have a life that you enjoy, it's like the battle between being content and being ambitious, like wanting more. And how do you straddle that line? And I think it's always great. So I have this, we've all heard of a bucket list, right? And I have this thing that I got from what's his name, Jesse Itzler. He called it a fuck it list. It's like, fuck it, I'm just going to do this thing or whatever it is, something crazy, right? It may not be like, you have your bucket list, like visiting the pyramids or whatever, 7 wonders of the world, things like that. But it's like just doing something crazy, like your 100-miler thing. That might be like, fuck it, I'm just going to do it, And so it's for me, it's constantly being updated. It's a never ending list, because if it ends, I feel like then I've checked off all the boxes and I'm ready to go. And I'm not even close to being ready to go. So I feel like our wants and needs and desires need to be continuously like ever evolving. And at the same time, wake up each morning expressing gratitude for the life that I have, and definitely trying to preserve that. And then, but adding to it, does that make sense?
It does. It does. I think this conversation can go in so many different directions from here. So the very first thing that came to mind for me reading David's comment was, have you ever heard of the term audience capture? Mm-hmm. So audience capture it's an interesting term, and it's really in the podcasting space especially, but it's newsletter writers, podcasters, anybody who creates content. Ideally, what you're wanting to do is you're always wanting to curate your content slightly to that which your audience is wanting to listen to. But you can do it to such a degree that you start refining and refining and refining. And eventually, when you started writing your newsletter, as an example, covering a multitude of topics that really interested you, you've gotten down so niche and so narrow because you believe that's what your audience wants to hear about, that you no longer actually serve the reason that you started writing your newsletter, or you no longer serve the reason that you started your podcast. And maybe there's an element of lifestyle capture where your life gets to a point where that line now becomes blurred around what do I want or what do I just need to maintain. That's my lifestyle capture. And I might just need to maintain where I've got to. My wants go out of the window, and I'm no longer allowed to pursue those to the point. How do we get back to the baseline where we can articulate our wants irrespective of what they serve? Because your wants, let's answer this question. What should our wants in life, do you think? Serve us, serve others, serve my lifestyle, serve my family? Well, ideally, what are we allowed to want?
That's an interesting concept, because it makes me think. I once heard, I'm going to butcher this quote. I don't even know if it's a quote. Maybe it's just a concept. But it's like the first 25 years of our life, we learn. The next 25, we earn. And then the next 25, we teach. Or something to that effect. And I know that's only 75 years, so let's give ourselves a little bit more time. But,
let's go with learn, earn, and burn.
Learn, earn, and burn.
Yeah, you burn the knowledge by teaching it.
You burn the knowledge. Yeah,
Yeah,
you pour it back into others.
yeah,
And I
absolutely.
feel like, even though I'm not 50 yet, I feel like I'm kind of feeling that transition. And I mean, there's overlap, of course. You still earn while you're teaching others. And I think it was actually Warren Rustin who I heard say some version of this. So Warren, forgive me for butchering this, but I get the concept. And but you cross this chasm where, like for me, I've been running Zeus's Closet for 15 years. We've been running Stuff for Greeks for like 22 years. And it's just kind of at this point where, yeah, that was my dream. Like I remember being coming out of college and just being so hungry and eager about building this company. And now I have it. It's awesome. I love it. But I'm on to the next thing where I'm feeling the fuel and the passion about public speaking and going on these speaking tours and publishing books and holding workshops and designing courses. I just really get that joy and that I get from that impact and teaching others and the messages I receive. Now, I haven't left behind the other thing. Our businesses are still running, but I've just kind of redirected my passion into the new things that are giving me fuel at this stage in life.
Really, that resonates as well. I think as you speaking, I'm thinking about David's comment because part of it he spoke about being held to. If I bring it up again, he said, "Now that I've got it, I find myself wondering: is the business of holding onto what I got binding me to the other, blinding me to the other things that I want?" And as you were speaking now about this evolve, because we evolve as human beings, our wants are going to evolve. So once our needs evolve as our life goes on. Maybe the real litmus test for are you being blinded to what you really want by what you currently have actually goes back into the previous episode, which we discussed 10x is easier than 2x. And
Mm.
I recall in that book, and I might not get it exactly right, but they speak about the difference between the freedom to want something or the fear of. I think it was the freedom to or the fear of. And if you start wanting to try and write down and articulate your wants, and you're going to your wants being driven by the fear, the fear of, the fear of losing my business, the fear of not having enough capital, the fear of not being able to put my kids through private school, the fear of, rather than my want is all about the freedom to be able to do X, Y, and Z, the freedom to choose when I want to do this, freedom to work in that kind of space, the freedom to do X, Y, and Z. Maybe that's the tipping point where you're being held hostage, you've fallen into lifestyle capture more than the ability to really lean into what you truly do desire and want deep down. Maybe that's the question. Is it fear of or is it freedom to?
Yeah. I mean, I know a guy who has 80 million. He did very well in business. He has 80 million put away, but he's scared of losing it all.
Yeah.
I mean, he told me, it's like, dude, like you've won the game, but he genuinely has a fear of, and he's very frugal with his cash. And it's just amazes me because he is truly scared of losing it all. And I feel like when you operate out of a place of fear, you behave differently. So I like that fear of versus freedom to moving to the next thing. And you have to have, I guess, this comfort, this knowing that everything's going to be okay. You're going to be fine.
Yeah.
And before we move on, I did find the actual quote. It is attributed to Frederick Douglass, although that's not 100% confirmed. But it's the first 25 years you learn, the next 25 years you earn, and the last 25 years you return.
Better than burn.
Better
I
than
like
burn.
that. I really like that. Okay, so before we wrap this one up, there's one more place I'd like to take it because you speak about abundance so much. Where do you think abundance and scarcity comes into this conversation?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about. Fear.
Yeah.
Scarcity is fear. Anytime you have a negative thought or negative energy like that, it lowers your vibration, it lowers your frequency, and it's going to continue to pull things down. So you really have to shift your mind to always like think abundantly, like there is no lack. And it's kind of it can be a difficult mindset shift for people because there's been times when in the past when I've looked in my bank account and it's like, oh wow, I only have $100 in my bank account or whatever. But in my mind, I feel like money is abundant. It's unlimited. It's always flowing. It's gonna keep flowing to me. So that snapshot is not a representation of my life to me. And you have to like really differentiate the two and understand that like there's all these transactions floating in the universe. Even if you think about it, just for visualization purposes, if you think about what is money, and I'm talking about money because that's one form of abundance, but it's digits just moving from one account to another, stocks, investments, bank accounts. It's just digits, and it's Wi-Fi, and stuff is just buzzing around. I'm just visualizing like money just flying in the air back and forth, right? And I'm like, oh, well, what can I do to just grab some of those transactions and have it flow through me? And that kind of visual, I know that might sound a little wonky and woo-woo, but that kind of visualization just helps me realize that money's, well, first of all, it's not real. It's a concept that we use as humans to provide value to each other, but it's endless. It's abundant. I mean, it can flow. It flows to you, through you, and away from you.
Sure. Hey, abundant. Yeah, it's so true. And I think for David, I'm taking it back to David. David needs to realize that wants are abundant as well. They don't have to be. There doesn't have to be scarcity with regards to what you want. It doesn't have to be limited. You're allowed to want more, is what I mean. Because you've achieved X, you're absolutely allowed to want to then achieve X, Y, and Z. It doesn't get.
I think that is the succinct answer to the question and a great way to end it. It's not one or the other, because he ended it with, because now I'm not sure what I really want. I'm just working on keeping what I have. You can do both. You can have it all.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's your line. You can have it all. That's a great way to end. Amazing.
All
Ethan,
right.
Thank you.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Kingspiration. We hope this conversation sparked insights to ignite action in your life and business.
We're on this journey together, sharing our challenges and successes to help all of us take the next step towards building momentum and ultimately reaching our goals.
If you found value in today's episode, please share it with someone else who might benefit and leave us a 5-star review.
And remember to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on our weekly conversations. Until next time, keep rolling, keep growing, and keep being inspired.